Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating intersection of science, geopolitics, and sheer engineering ambition. We're looking at the invisible supply chains running our world, specifically how China is pushing the absolute boundaries of high-temperature gas-cooled reactors. And we're going to explore how that massive energy initiative ties directly into one of the universe's most critical, yet surprisingly scarce elements. So, let me just ask you this. What actually links your local hospital, the smartphone sitting right next to you, and the absolute cutting-edge future of nuclear energy? Well, the answer is helium. And no, not just for party balloons. We're talking about a highly scarce, absolutely critical element that's quietly driving next-generation tech. It's the literal lifeblood of high-tech manufacturing and advanced research. Securing a steady stream of this stuff has quietly become a massive global priority, completely reshaping how nations plan their industrial futures. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at the global helium squeeze, securing domestic supply chains, the pure helium breakthrough, building the artificial sun, and finally wrapping up with the 2030 energy frontier. To really appreciate these innovations, we have to start at the source of the problem. Section 1. The global helium squeeze, a strategic rethink. So, natural helium is incredibly scarce. You see, it's generally captured as a byproduct of natural gas extraction, meaning you can't just manufacture it on demand using conventional chemistry. But beyond those geological limits, the global supply chain itself is extremely vulnerable. For China, a heavy reliance on foreign imports created some major geopolitical choke points. When you factor in the reality of sudden export bans or international supply chain disruptions, it objectively creates a highly volatile situation for any nation relying on this gas to power its economy. This strategic vulnerability, it's driven a complete rethink, prompting a massive multi-tiered initiative to ensure industrial independence. Which brings us right to the first step of this massive pivot. Section 2. Securing domestic supply chains, localizing production. Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer scale, 15 million cubic meters. That is the incredible volume China is targeting as it rapidly expands its domestic helium infrastructure from the ground up. Instead of relying on a fragile web of international shipping and foreign extraction facilities, the goal is to build an internal infrastructure capable of meeting that massive 15 million cubic meter capacity. It's a super aggressive timeline, designed entirely to insulate critical national interests from those external bottlenecks. And listen, that 15 million cubic meter target isn't just about stockpiling a rare gas for the sake of it, right? It's about protecting the fundamental pillars of modern infrastructure. Helium is absolutely essential for microchip manufacturing. The whole semiconductor fabrication process needs ultra-pure environments, and helium is used as a critical purge gas and cooling agent. Plus, it's totally vital for the medical sector. Those superconducting magnets inside the MRI machines at your local hospital, they literally have to be bathed in liquid helium to stay close to absolute zero. Without a localized supply, a disruption in imports could effectively freeze both the modern tech economy and advanced public health systems. But securing existing supplies is really only step 1. Let's pivot to the next tier of the strategy. Section 3. The pure helium breakthrough, engineering efficiencies. Traditional nuclear reactors rely on generating steam to spin a turbine. Now, it's a proven method for sure, but it's highly complex and there's a lot of thermal loss. Converting nuclear heat into steam and then using that steam for mechanical work, it just has an inherent ceiling on efficiency. But the high-temperature gas-cooled reactor, or HTGR, fundamentally changes the math. By utilizing a closed-loop system with pure helium as the primary coolant and driver, it cuts out the middleman. It achieves massive engineering efficiencies, simplifying the architecture and dramatically increasing the thermal output that can actually be converted to electricity. Let's walk through how this closed-loop Brayton cycle changes the game. Step 1. The microreactor generates intense heat. But step 2, instead of transferring that heat to water to boil into steam, superheated helium gas is used to drive the turbine directly. Then step 3, after passing through the turbine, the helium cools slightly and loops right back into the reactor core to be heated again. Because helium is an inert, noble gas, it's incredibly stable at extreme temperatures and doesn't easily become radioactive. So it acts as the perfect direct driver, maintaining super high thermodynamic efficiency without the corrosive or volatile properties of high-pressure steam. And crucially, this isn't just some theoretical model waiting for funding. State-owned developers in China, specifically CNNC, have already taken this from concept to reality. They've successfully generated electricity using a megawatt-class, high-power turbine driven entirely by pure helium gas. Proving that a pure helium turbine can operate at a megawatt scale is a monumental engineering breakthrough. It signals that these next-generation microreactors are moving out of the lab and becoming a very practical, highly efficient reality for future power grids. Now, as amazing as microreactors are, they're kind of just the warm-up act. Let's scale all the way up to the ultimate macro solution. Section 4, Building the Artificial Sun, Nuclear Fusion Tech. This brilliantly illustrates the science behind nuclear fusion, creating a literal star right here on Earth. By fusing hydrogen atoms together and caging the resulting superheated plasma, they're replicating the exact processes that power the sun. The immense challenge, obviously, is that no physical material can contain plasma burning at tens of millions of degrees. The solution? Magnetic confinement. They're utilizing the world's largest superconducting magnets to suspend the plasma in a vacuum. It requires astonishing precision and represents one of the most complex engineering projects in human history. But wait, here is the ultimate, elegant twist of this entire explainer. By achieving virtually emissions-free fusion energy, you don't just get a nearly limitless supply of clean power, you actually produce helium as a direct byproduct. When hydrogen isotopes fuse, they create a helium nucleus. It is this profound scientific symmetry. The very technology being developed to solve the global energy crisis organically solves the helium scarcity crisis in one fell swoop. The loop is entirely closed, turning a highly sought-after critical element into a guaranteed byproduct of clean energy generation. How amazing is that? Now, none of these initiatives are happening in isolation. Let's synthesize how they form a singular, cohesive vision. Section 5, the 2030 Energy Frontier, a cohesive timeline. Let's move to the timeline and see how this all builds. A really clear trajectory emerges here. From today's massive 15 million cubic meter domestic supply efforts to the recent megawatt-class pure helium turbine tests, it's all driving toward one highly ambitious target, inching toward commercialized, emissions-free fusion energy by 2030. Every single step, securing the supply chains, mastering helium turbine efficiency, building the superconducting infrastructure, it all acts as a vital stepping stone toward that end-of-decade milestone. Which leaves us with a pretty vital question to chew on. As fusion technology rapidly advances toward that 2030 target, who is going to control the clean energy and the critical elements of tomorrow? The engineering breakthroughs we've unpacked today are already reshaping global supply chains, and the next few years are going to be absolutely pivotal. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, and I really hope this leaves you eager to discover more about the future of global energy.